Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed, pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is inspired by a listener's email. So thank you very much to that beautiful and brave listener. And it is called Triggered AF. We all know what that means, by someone else's choices. So let us begin this beautiful conversation by diving into this listener's original email. What do you think, Bridge?
Let's do it. So this beautiful listener said to us, "Hi, Julie and Bridget. I first want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the work that you are doing. I discovered your podcast about 4 months ago, just after giving birth to my second child, and it truly was the most perfect postpartum companion I could have asked for. It was exactly the kind of conversations and insights I needed for my healing journey. It has been so refreshing to finally find support in this way with other like-minded mamas. I'm wondering if you are open to touching on something I've been struggling with lately. As I am still in that extended postpartum stage, I'm feeling super vulnerable to others' energy and actions. I'm finding myself being very easily triggered by others who make parenting choices that are not aligned with mine or impose their beliefs onto me. I know my lifestyle and parenting ways are much different than those around me, and I wish I was not affected by others' choices and opinions. But no matter how much my rational brain tells me to get a grip and focus on what feels right to me, I have a tough time letting these things go right now, and sometimes find myself in a negative thought loop that I can't seem to break. I would love to hear your perspective on this, as your words of wisdom always seem to help on my personal growth journey. Lots of love, Christine."
I want to hug her. So in actual fact, I wrote back to her and just asked for just a little bit more clarity, because it helps us answer a question the more specific it is, because the more generalized it is, the harder it is to actually answer, isn't it? So I just bounced back to her and just asked for a little bit of clarity around what it was that she perceived she needed to let go, what it was specifically that she was in a negative loop or pattern or feeling like she was defending against. So I'll read you briefly her response just so you have context, and then we'll riff on the conversation from there. So she says, "To clarify, the effects usually come in the form of anxiety and frustration. I do find myself feeling judged, although I've gotten to a point that I feel confident in my decisions, but it does leave me feeling very misunderstood. I also have the urge to want to explain and educate others on my decisions, but I tend to hold back, as most people in my life aren't open to receiving that information, which is totally okay, says my rational brain. Haha. The letting go and negative loop go hand in hand. I have those pesky pretend conversations in my head of what I would like to say to people or how I could educate them on why I do things this way. And because I usually can't have these conversations in real life out of respect, these thoughts don't seem to want to leave my head. I guess there are two parts to this issue. I feel frustrated when I am judged and questioned about my choices, but I also recognize that I am passing judgment onto others when I see them making choices that don't align with my own values. Even though I never voice those judgments, I want to be able to let go of that negative energy within me. I hope that all makes some sense. I'm not sure that there's a single person around who couldn't like see themselves in that.
Oh, totally. And, you know, human behavior 101, right? But I love that we're here having this conversation to unpack it a little, because haven't we all been there, and don't we all find ourselves at that place when we are, you know, in that, you know, expansive but also terrifying place of building a new identity, which is what early motherhood and every postpartum experience asks us to do.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
So like a huge like us too, first of all, to that, because it is, you just become, the awareness of that pattern is the first step in shifting it. We've also got to love the function of it, like why it shows up. And it is part of us learning to love our choices. But when we're in this state of like judgment of our outer world and wanting to make others wrong, it's just letting us know that we're really wobbly still on the choices that we're making, or on whether it's the right lens through which to view things. And so we look outside of ourselves, because we only know things by knowing their opposite. We only know like conscious parenting by knowing what we see as unconscious parenting. And so we move away from what we see that as to come back into what we value. And you and I have touched on this before, like, you know, what's the value of us perceiving someone as what we may view as maybe abusive or destructive to their child, and how much does that push us back, almost like a you know, like a sling back for us, back into what we value and back into our cocoon and back into, oh yeah, my center. I remember why I do this. And so that perception of those people is not an accident. Remembering that we don't see reality. We create reality based on our perceptions. You can't possibly perceive everything because your brain would like probably explode. So you perceive what's most meaningful. So you're calling that in like a little gift to yourself to go, see, and what do you choose right now?
I love that mirror so much. It just gets me excited even thinking about that, because it's been, and I think will continue to be, one of my greatest life lessons, is to, instead of seek separation from that which I find vexatious, instead to go, oh, okay, you are just love in another form. And actually, instead of wanting to push away from you further, or to, in this case, squash you a little bit by going, you just don't know.
You just don't get it.
And if you did, you wouldn't choose this. And my way is better. And it's the fact that you're not educated, or don't care enough, or don't love hard enough, or are too lazy, or love your work more than your children, or, you know, insert any projection from my own personal wounding. Because I've certainly been all of those things. Like, I am pretty much the poster child for, or was, for conscious parenting self-righteousness. 100%, amen, like put my hand up, totally. And so I see pieces of myself in this beautiful listener, and I remember how painful that was. Like, incredibly painful. So much harder to live day by day than my life now. Like, way, way harder, because my level of infatuation and one-sidedness that this was right and therefore that and they were wrong meant that those two extreme opposites are continuously attracted to each other, so continuously kind of bouncing or clashing into each other. Right? So the more I was like, you're wrong, I'm right, the more I was smacked with, no, you're wrong, I'm right.
Yes.
Like, because they're literally a magnetic force. Your
They're thinking
opposite
of
is
each other.
literally, yeah, you're literally attracting your energetic opposite all
And
the
if you
time.
consider too, like, I think about that Rumi quote where he says, like, what you are seeking is seeking you. Seeking conscious parenting actually is seeking all of it.
Mm.
So conscious parenting is coming to greater consciousness. And that's not just all the stuff I like about myself and I like about other people and what I see as perfect and good and whole. It is everything that's also in shadow.
Amen.
So the more we fixate on that one way as right, as you say, the more the sister-in-law, the brother-in-law, the mother, the mother-in-law, the best friends, the more you will have visceral triggers toward them as a way of speaking to yourself to own what you're trying to disown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's brutal because, as you're saying, your self-worth, and I can totally put myself back in that place. So your self-worth is almost built not from within, it's built from outside of you and how well you think you're performing based on some construct that you've created that you are not.
Or how well I fought the good battle today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how much have I been a warrior for this today? It's fucking exhausting to be a warrior every day.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. So to bring it back to your point, I absolutely love the idea, though whilst going through a fresh trigger, hate the idea of this person is here to help me love more. And actually, even in this moment, if I can't love their choices, I can love that reflection of thank you for the reminder of my own personal why.
Yeah.
Because we can get complacent and lazy if we're full of support.
Totally true.
Like 100%. It's often the rub of, oh God, I don't want to end up that way. Oh God, I don't want that to be my reality. Oh God, I hope I'm never like that.
Yeah. But it acts as like a buffering system. It pushes you toward, like,
totally.
How much do you use that as like a guidepost?
Yeah, but how much can you thank that person for that reminder?
Yeah.
Because that person is bringing you closer to your purpose, alignment, and values. They're not in the way of that. They're actually like the banks of the river offering you a structure in which to flow in your best life stream.
Yeah.
I think this about my mum all of the time. Every time I get a trigger with her, I'm like, oh God, okay, thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, this is why I choose these things. Yes, this is it. Like, you can get to the point where it's something really beautiful that you can love because they bring you on path, not because you need them to be in your path.
Oh, I like that. So they don't need to be in your path, part of your path.
No, but I can love them for sure.
They help you guide yourself.
Yeah. Like, how beautiful is that?
It really is beautiful.
So there's nothing to fight against. The other key learning, I think, in this, when we're talking about it in terms of conscious parenting, that was a huge awakening for me, was moving away from the concept that children are these somehow partial, innocent, potentially even naive,
like a clean slate, like perfect.
Yeah, and that things are done to them more than coming into the perception or the awareness that they are whole souls and in fact are a more advanced consciousness than me. So already I know my children begin this life with a deeper embodied wisdom and strive for purpose than I do. And that everything is co-created.
Yeah.
So as a child of abuse, I've done so much work on healing that now I look back and there is not a single piece of that I would change. Not a single piece of it. Because I can absolutely see with a higher level of consciousness the skills that were being developed in those moments, that were developed and refined as revelations, which are only ever born out of pain and struggle and adversity, because we do not grow in the place of immense comfort and continuous support.
Yeah.
We just develop privilege there. So I love the scars that I carry, because they have been what has made me, what allows me to show up as me, what gives me the shining light of my purpose. So why would I not want that for my children and for all of the children in the world? So yes, this gets hard when we're talking about instances of horrendous abuse. Yes, it does. I don't think that this is a concept that we can lightly go, oh, you know, everything's okay at all. But it's one piece of the missing conversation here in judgment, which is, okay, but this child chose these parents and chose these lessons and chose this soul's incarnation and has a unique and divine purpose that I do not know of. And who am I to say I can see everything in this moment and know everything in this moment and therefore know what is right or wrong for this child? I can't know that. I can love this child in that moment. I can love that parent in that moment, because hurt people hurt. Hurt doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
We're just interrupting very quickly to let you know what we've got going on in the world right now. So over at julietenner.love, I am about to being released on the 6th of September, Sanctum, which is a 5-week course on safe, sacred, and sage-like space holding for circle and ceremony facilitation. It is a certification course with me of 5 action-packed weeks. So you can find out more at julietenner.love. And you, Bridgie?
Yes, over at bridgetwood.life, you will find Reimagining Motherhood, which is the beautiful community that we have created, or that I've created, all about supporting you on your conscious parenting journey that also really nurtures and nourishes you as a woman and a mother, beyond the social narrative of guilt being a virtue or the perfect mother myth. It is a really beautiful community to dive into. So find that at bridgetwood.life.
And back to the podcast. Because they themselves are victims of struggle and challenge.
I mean, all of our human behavior is patterned. And so when you recognize that, and you also look at the humbling nature of what you're saying, which is that I don't know, who am I to self-righteously say that I know what is right for this child in front of me, or that I witness in the street? I don't know that. I can't begin to even attempt to know that. And so it is also an invitation to humility.
Yeah.
Into like, how much can I be both self-responsible for how I show up,
right,
but not so much so that I have this incredible, sense that I must therefore be infallible, and so must everybody around me. And that, if my partner or my mother or someone else slips up and doesn't hold space the way that I want, or speak to my child the way that I want, or dare say I don't, that they or me have somehow failed, and that they are therefore not worthy of love. Because this is what happens in so much relationship conflict in parenting, is one deeply wounded parent who seeks the complete opposite partners with someone whose wounds perfectly interlock, who doesn't have the parenting values, whose unconscious parenting comes out, which deeply taps you into your childhood, and you have a complete shit show of projection and pain.
Yeah.
And so I love what you're saying here, where you say the invitation is to go back and love that which you are trying to run from.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if our true nature is cooperation and compassion, then anything outside of that is trauma. So I can love someone in their trauma without my self-righteousness casting judgment.
Yeah.
Because I know that place. And because I know at some point I have or will end up at that place. Because we're whole. We're not, fragmented pieces of perfection. So in terms of coming back to feeling the intense judgment of the world, I think there's a couple of pieces there that we've talked about. And I think it's recognizing that the world is only a reflection of you, and you can only feel judgment to the extent that you are already subconsciously judging yourself. Yeah, but I know she judges me because I don't fold the washing, and she judges me because I put all of my whites and colours in the washing machine together, and she judges me because I breastfeed my children to sleep, and she judges me because my baby sleeps in the bed with me. Okay, but she's just a piece of you. So somewhere in there is a piece of you who's shit fucking scared that maybe she isn't making the right choice.
Yeah. Yes. And so it feels safer to throw it out there.
Yeah.
And be with the vulnerability of that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think it's far easier to make it about the world is judging me than it is, and consume ourselves with the busyness of thought, and in this case, the fantasy of how it could play out or might play out, or the things I could say, or the ways that it could go. It can never be that, so it's a fantasy. But I can consume myself with that busyness so that I don't have to sit in the vulnerability of, my God, what if this thing that I've staked my identity on isn't going to turn out to be better or best or even the right choice?
Yes. Which is so fragile for our ego, right? Like so fragile for our identity, which is not, the whole of us, but it's the shells that we clasp onto. But to just actually, I think, contemplate or meditate on that is actually deeply empowering.
So do I.
Because then there's just so much less attachment to how you need to be in order to be good enough or worthy, or to be able to say how great you are, or how fulfilled your life is, because ultimately you're still always going to be identifying with different identities, where on whatever kind of thing you're fixated upon, whereas to instead lean back and go, whatever I've done or not done, I'm still worthy of love and being loved and loving another. Like it's all love.
Yeah.
But I don't want to discount the fact that going through that process is painful.
Yeah, it's really hard. I've certainly been there. That's why I'm saying I really get it. I really get it.
And every new trigger, as you say, I'm going through a trigger at the moment. Every new identity shift, big trigger, big shift or transformation is that process again.
Yeah, it is. It continuously happens.
Like a death of self.
Yeah. Absolutely. Birth, death, rebirth is the continuous cycle you will always be in. And when you're in a phase of death and rebirth, it feels like shaky ground. It feels like this, where I'm misunderstood and I have to fight for my right to be here, and I have to hustle for my worth, and nobody validates me and nobody sees me and I'm not enough. And, all these sentences that come up really when our foundations are just super shaky, and we're trying to build a mansion on top of super shaky foundations. When we're going, yeah, but I'll fight the good war. Yeah, but it is this good. Yeah, but I'll armor up and tell you all of the ways, and I'm going to educate you just so you know better, so you can do better. And, this it's this self-righteous armoring that is like trying to build something that is on completely shaky ground.
And
that is exhausting.
And instead of feeling the shaky foundations and going back and like examining them, it's like, oh no, I'll take another piece of armory, I'll take another piece of research, or I'll take another person's opinion, and I'll take something else and clear.
Because we'd rather fight than be beaten.
Yeah.
It's like the bull in the china shop. I'll get you before you get me. So I'll armor up and get super busy in the fight so I don't have to feel the deep pain of vulnerability, possible identity stripping, and possible crumbling of that which I have held true up until this point in time. I can't say any of it lightly, but I can see it differently now. So I do think that that is an exhausting way to live. And I do think that it's worth recognizing that every person who says something to us is just like the advice we give others is the advice that really we just want to hear for ourselves. Same thing, the thing that someone says to us, there's a piece of us somewhere buried in our subconscious, sometimes shallow, sometimes deep, that thinks that thing too. So instead of trying to run from it, what would it be like to go, you know, I don't know if this is going to turn out better. I don't know if my children are going to be more emotionally functional. I don't know if one day they'll leave our bed. I don't know if, it's okay to not know those things. But what if we met the people that we love from the place of vulnerability that's like, I don't know. I'm choosing the thing that I feel most in alignment with. I have a belief that maybe it'll end up here, but I don't know. I don't know. You know, and I mean, as I said, I've said many times on this podcast, being able to really open my heart and crumble my self-righteousness with the mums in my just local primary school was by far one of the most healing things that I have ever experienced. Because all of a sudden, the them that I had spent all of the preschool years fighting against were these women that I loved. Yes. There is no them.
No, there's no them.
They are magnificent humans who are contributing their soul and their own gifts to their unique children who chose to receive those gifts from those parents so they could do their soul's work in this world. And I am not here to judge that because there is not one pinpoint of consciousness, but entire spectrum. So how can I love diversity rather than ask for everyone to be the same in order for me to feel better?
God. And it's just that reminder too that we think that we want to be around like-minded people and, you know, exist in an echo chamber, but we actually grow the most when we sit next to and talk to and be with that which we're most triggered by, the person who chooses the complete opposite value system to us. Because we're rubbing up against what we deny in ourselves. It's just in a different form.
Yeah. And I think over the years, you and I have gotten really good too, Bridge, at asking ourselves continuously whenever we noticed a rise of a judgment is, okay, what is it that I'm judging? And what is it that I perceive to be wrong and therefore what I perceive to be right? And then we ask ourselves to look for the opposite that's true in both those scenarios, right? So we go, this thing that I think I'm doing that's so right, how is it a disadvantage or a drawback to my child? And how is this thing that I think is so wrong at this point in time a benefit to that child? And when you ask your brain to create new neural pathways and to see wider in those ways, what happens is you balance everything into a state of equilibrium and you're no longer fighting against anything, because fighting against something is not an authentic choice.
No.
That's still someone else ruling your choices because you're fighting like it's the rebel is as much a cage, right?
And it's also too, you know, who you've built yourself to be as well, because you're actually always going to be both. Like you and I have talked in the past about how you can really easily in conscious parenting start to put everything in like a conscious group and then everything else in like a mainstream, like, you know, box. But in fact, you are going to be both conforming and not conforming throughout your life.
To the same degree.
To the same degree. All of the time. So I can list all the ways that I'm not conforming and then go, fuck, yeah, but look at all the ways I'm conforming.
Yeah. I actually love doing this. I make myself laugh all of the time when I do this.
You just go.
No, I actually love it.
It's freeing. It's freeing because you then go, well, fuck me, because I thought I was all this. And, you know, I'm kind of feeling comfortable in my otherizing of other people and their choices. But then I go, oh, shit, I am actually choosing to conform, to fit a narrative, to follow other people's ideas, to not think for myself, you know, or whatever you're judging, where are you doing it?
Yeah.
And then you will no longer be hooked by that because you're not trying to avoid that anymore. You're embracing that.
Yeah. It's so good.
Like what? That is freedom.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Being in a state or a constant state of reaction is not. That's someone else governing you.
Or you're just ricocheting from, you know, every which way.
Right. The world's governing you. You're not.
Yeah.
It's not freedom. That's not alignment. That's not empowered choice.
No.
But really empowered choice comes from looking at everything and going, wow, okay, here's all of my choices. Here's the choices of controlled crying, and here's the benefits and the drawbacks of that. And here's the choices of feeding and rocking to sleep or co-sleeping, and here's the drawbacks and the benefits of that. And when I can see that those two things are equal with drawbacks and benefits, then I'm in an empowered state to go, and what is it that's most in alignment with my own values, truth, soul, guidance? Yeah. But if I'm trying to fight for my worth and to be heard and to be seen and to be valued and to be in reaction to someone else's way of being or belonging to this world, I'm not able, I'm not free. I'm not making an aligned, authentic choice.
You actually end up more in somebody else's slipstream than you do in your own anchored place.
Yeah.
Because you're so, you're so vulnerable to being picked up by the energies that are outside of you rather than coming back to what is true for me.
Yeah.
So that wobbly place of noticing when you're getting triggered is just that invitation back in, and is also there to help you see what you're not seeing. It's there to help you break infatuations with certain ways of being or doing parenting. Yeah. And so they are just feedback. I remember my mum sometimes would make comments, and at the time I'd be like, but like, you just don't understand, you know?
I get it. Me too.
I don't know. And I'm sure I still do it now. But
I just laugh at them now and go, oh my God, you actually like don't remember.
Yeah, true, exactly.
Literally don't remember.
Yeah, totally, like selective memory on that.
Yeah.
But now I go, oh yeah, she was actually just there as my reality check, you know, as my kind of like that little chink in my armor of like, you know, I know what's right, to kind of go, do you really? Have you seen this? Have you thought of this? And that's an offering. Sometimes it's not an offering that feels good in any way.
Yeah.
But if we can let it in a little, it does have wisdom for us.
I think that's a beautiful way to wrap up.
Yeah, so I hope that that's really helpful for you, dear listener, to think about your scenario and, you know that we've all been there and we will continue to go there again as we move to different spheres of awareness. We each have a wobbly place as we're integrating new parts of ourselves and the world, and we don't escape that. So also just knowing you're there and loving yourself for being there and remembering this is an invitation. an invitation to see wider, not to armor up.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
And to just build those foundations of self really strongly. And you can only build those foundations strongly when you know you've actually looked at your fallibility and the other possible outcomes. It's the only way you can build a strong sense. Yeah, I know. Here's the choice I'm making, but yeah, I know it could go that way. You know, so instead of trying to avoid the thing that makes you feel awkward, it is, as you say, Bridget, an invitation to let it make you stronger if you're willing to. But your strength doesn't come from fighting more battles.
No.
It comes from building stronger community. So, and you do that by loving more diverse experiences and populations rather than just that which you're comfortable with or that make you comfortable.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So to connect with us, you can check out nourishingthemother.com.au, and you can also watch our podcast live streamed if you join our free Facebook group, which is called Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. You can find the link to that in our Instagram. And to connect with you, Jules,
is julietenner.love and you, Bridge?
bridgetwood.life. Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.
This has been a production of TheWellnessCouch.com. Check us out on Facebook and join in the conversation on Facebook.com/TheWellnessCouch. Subscribe to each show on iTunes and check us out on Twitter. The Wellness Couch, streaming wellness into your lives.
Whilst the Wellness Couch presenter endeavor to provide accurate and helpful information to their listeners, these podcasts cannot take into account individual circumstances and are not intended to be a substitute for health and medical advice from a qualified health professional. You should always seek the advice of a qualified health professional before acting on any of the information provided by any of the Wellness Couch podcasts.